everyone, this is the great Lord and Master, Osiron, the Eternal. For the first time on camera since I last cut my hair, I have the official Osiron, Lord Osiron haircut again. I got my hair up in the fucking bun and top knot. So, this is a new video, this isn't old, if you're wondering. Okay, this is going to be an extension, sort of a continuation of the last video about the Numerically Perfected Super Cube. There's a little odds and ends. Okay, this is the Eye of the Dragon, formerly called the Yggdrasil. And I just want to get to a few interesting points, okay? One of them is, as I've explained in the other videos in this series, the cube is best represented by 369, or 396. As opposed to 666. Because 666 really has nothing to do with the cube, and I've been talking about that in cube, in relation to the cube, but it really doesn't. And I was looking more into that. In 666, this comes to me from the guys on the YouTube channel Numberphile. It's not their material, but I got it through them. 666 is just a passage in the Bible, that talks about the Antichrist and all that stuff, and they use the number 666 to describe that. Well, that is actually a modern translation too, because the original number, when I say original, I mean there is so much, as far as chronology goes in history, that is complete bullshit. I mean, there's so much wrong with the chronology, and just to keep it simple, the original version was actually 616, not 666. It was changed later to 666, and people think that that is actually is a number used to represent Nero Caesar, because both numbers work with Nero Caesar too. 616 using gematria, I think maybe using either Greek or Hebrew. I'm not sure. I forget which one. It was one of those. Nero Caesar becomes 616, and that's the number of the beast. And then later it was changed to 666, which still works with Nero Caesar in gematria. So 666 in the cube is really just and the whole 666 thing is really just an overblown hysteria based on really that passage in the Bible. Really, I mean, it really has nothing to do with the cube, really. Well, it does a little bit. I'll show you how it does, but okay, 693 or 396. Now, when you construct a cube in order of operation from the least to the most, you get 6 faces, okay, and then you get the corner and the center point are 9, okay, and then lastly you got the 12 edges, which reduce to 3. So in that order, it separates to 6, 9, 3. Okay, that's, again, it has a vortex mass separation and all that. But now what's interesting is, when you take this and you play with it a little bit, it reveals the reverse. Remember that this is all about symmetry and counterbalance. Okay, now the 6 faces, if you take 1 through 6, that becomes 21, which of course reduces to a 3, which counterbalances the 6. 1 through 9 becomes 45, which produces 9 again, which, you could say it counterbalances the 9, but it is 9. And then lastly, the edges 1 through 12, as we know from the Osiron Tyrrell spiral, 1 through 12 add to become 78, which reduces to 6 to give you the reverse of the 3. So the cube is represented by 693, and those very same numbers reduce to reveal its opposition of 396. So perfect symmetry, perfect balance. Okay. And now what happens is, those numbers, 21, 45, and 78, when you add those 3 numbers, it reveals 144, which is another 12 times 12, because we know the square of the cube, when you add the angular dimensions, reveals 2160, which is 1/12 of the great year. Well, 12 times 12 is 144, and we've already seen how that plays out in the single digit code. Now 666, interestingly enough, does show up in this spot in an interesting way. Now if you separate the numbers by polarity, the 2 and 4 become 6, the next here 1 and 5 becomes 6, and of course the 7 and the 8 reduce to become 6. So now you got a 6, 6, and a 6. Okay. Now interestingly enough, we know how the cube relates to the zodiac and the tarot. the deacons, there's 36 deacons on the wheel of the zodiac. And when you do the same thing as this, adding the numbers up, 1 through 36 reveals 666. So that's interesting. So the deacons of the deacons of the zodiac reveal 666 in there when you add them up, and we know the zodiac is a template of the cube. You know, or cube geometry is used in the construction of the tower in the zodiac. Very interesting. Now, one other thing I want to get to too. We saw this last time, how this axis thing is derived by the numbers. Just watch that. I'm not going to get into it. But there's another aspect that I didn't talk about on that video, the one prior to this, is the lines. You see how the lines, like the 12 lines, connecting lines? Well, there's an oddity here. When you add them up, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 6 goes on the feminine side, and 7 goes on the masculine side, and 8, and it goes through again. Now, the interesting thing about that is this follows the rule from feminine to masculine. Okay, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5 jumps down to the middle ones, and following that rule, 6 goes here, and it is a cross. But now the interesting thing about that is on the true tree of life, the 6 and the 7 are reversed. The 6 goes on the female pillar, and the 7 goes on the masculine pillar. So we're seeing this here. Those numbers reverse. And now there's something that validates that as being correct, because you could just do it the other way, but it does break the rule that we go masculine first, sort of counter-rotation, you could say. But there is something that validates it through the numbers that reveal it as being right the way it is. And that is, so over here what happens is, when you add the corners up, it reveals this. You go 1, 8, 2, 7, 4, 5. Well, the same thing applies to this when you add up the faces, the lines on the corners. So these 4, the upper ones reveal a 10, the lower ones reveal a 42, over here 24, 28, and over here 21, 31. And the reason why I left the whole unreduced numbers there is because every single opposition reveals 52. Okay, so these 2 reveal 52, these 2 reveal 52, and the up and down ones reveal 52. And what's 5 and 2? 7. So now we're seeing another 777 link with the cube using the line to numbers. And that would only work if you put the 6 on this side and 7 on that side. If you put them the other way to match polarity, it would throw everything off. So that only works like this, and it reveals that, and it reveals 777. So I've been talking about a lot prior to this, that the number 7 represents the blood or the fluids of the body. I think I'm going to change that. I think the 7 represents the entire body, including the fluids and the blood. But I think based on this, because we know the cube is basically the sigil for the 3 dimensions, which is the whole material world. Okay, and its oppositions, 6 and 1 and so forth, all reveal 7. Now we're seeing it with the lines here, that they all reveal 777 in its dualistic opposition. So I'm thinking 7 is just the whole body. The chariot is the whole body, not just the blood. But, okay, so that's that. And now something else interesting too that I want to get to, and this comes into play. See, here's the pentagrams. In the last video I showed how the cube numbers reveal the pentagram angular degrees when you add up the polarizations of that, and it reveals 36, 72, 108, and I said you have to do it in that specific order to get that. Well, that's not really true. Any dualistic aspect is going to reveal 36, 72, and 108, no matter how you put the numbers 1 through 8 in the order. It has to be 1 through 8. If you throw the 9 in there, it would mess it up. But the 1 through 8, any dualistic representation is going to reveal 36, 72, and 108. The numbers that are individual and that unique would be the first set. So the first set before you add the bottom would be 10, then you add the bottom, it's 36. The second one would be 56, and then you add the bottom, it becomes 72, or the side becomes 72, and then the last one would be 94, and then you add the other side, it becomes 108. So it's sort of saying that the 1-2 dualism, the 2 is the same, it's static and fixed, it never changes, but the real diversity, I guess you could say, comes from the 1. So now you got the 10, the 56, and the 94, which reveals 160 and then reduces to 7 again for the cube. like that. And that comes to the idea that the 1 is feminine and masculine, and the 2 is masculine. I just want to touch on that just a little bit here, because people could still doubt that, because the only reasons I really gave for that so far is that the 1, yoni and uni sound the same, and then the 2 is for duality and electricity. That's really the main examples I gave so far, but I want to touch on that just a little more. The 1 being feminine and 2 masculine, because I know in standard numerology they have that reversed. But 1, what is 1, and why do I call it feminine? I mean, what is a female or a feminine characteristic? Females and women want to draw everyone closer to them. They want everything to be unified. They want everything to be one. They want no separation. They want to draw everything to them. They want everyone to coexist. They want everyone to be one. Okay? In men, the masculine force is always organizing, always putting things in order. And a different way to say that is always separating and quantifying. So the masculine force of 2 is always separating, always putting things in order, always judging, always quantifying, always putting things in order and form. You know what I mean? It's always putting things in order. It's always separating. It's putting lines up. It's putting boundaries up. It's organizing through separation. So that's another reason why I say 1 and 2. But on the swastika up here, I left that because when you put the swastika and you add the circular little dots there, that shows a 1-2 separation too. And so each quadrant here is made up of 3 distinct parts. You got the circular part, which would be round and feminine, and then you got the 2 lines, which would be straight and masculine. So we're seeing that 1-2 separation here as well. You got the rounded aspect, which is female, and then the 2 straights, or the 2 lines, which would be masculine. So we're seeing that here too. And now in this form, that reveals a 12. Now each section reveals a 1 and a 2. And 12 times 4 is 48, which is another 1-2 separation, but that also reduces to 12. So this fractalizes out in 12 all over the place too. So that's just another aspect of why the 1 is feminine and the 2 is masculine, because that's a really important distinction. You have to get that right. But now what you could say is the 0 is acting as masculine, if you want to say that, because it's sort of everything comes from 0 in its exertive sense. So everything's birthed from 0. So you really could say that 0 is masculine if you wanted to, if you had you. And then the 9 would be feminine, and the 9 is just a return to 0. So the 0, everything exerts from 0, and the 9 is sort of like going back to 0. It's sort of the circuit like that. So that's how that goes. Okay, now one last thing too that's interesting with the pentagrams here. In the other videos I show how when you add the corresponding lines, like what happens is the pentagram is divided, in this dualistic structure here, the pentagram is divided into 2 distinct sections. You have 2 sections here where the counterbalancing lines are opposite each other. So this line becomes a 7, this lower one becomes a 2, and they cancel out to 9. These horizontal ones add to 5, then 4 and cancel to 9, and these other angular ones add to 3 and then 6 and cancel to 9. Now the difference is with these ones, you got 2 more over here, but these lines are in phase. Okay, so the 1 and the 8, the lines are in the same plane, whereas these are opposite plane, 90-degree opposites, and these are in phase here. So the 4 and 5 and the 1 and 8 are sort of very similar because they do the same thing. They're both in line. And remember, this structure builds both ways. So it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 9, but it also goes, counts down 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and stuff. And the meeting point is back in the middle again. So if you go one way, it goes through in 0, 9 in the middle, and the 1 and 8 cut through the middle. And then the other way, the 4 and the 5 are the track back to the middle. So we already know that the 4 and the 5 have a unique aspect in several ways, because we know in the middle of the 2D presentation of the Eye of the Dragon or the Yggdrasil is a 4 and a 5. Other in the Indra's web or the web matrix, 4 and 5 are distinct and unique, and they separate themselves. So we're seeing this, but it also does something else too. That those same lines reveal their oppositions. So the line that reveals 7 and 2, its oppositions on one end is 3, the other opposition is 6, and it's the same thing, 4 here and 5 here. Then you got the 3 here and the 6 in its corner opposition, the 7 and the 2 in its corner opposition. And then down here on these angular ones, you got the 1 and its opposition is 8, and the 2 and the 7 is opposition. So this thing is perfect just the way it is. And it's just as perfect as any other structure, and it reveals oppositions perfectly just the way it's drawn. You don't got to play with it, you don't have to do anything. So very interesting, very unique, and I think we're just about done. This is the first video of 2020. Today is a full wolf moon, the first full moon of the year in January. And again, we're showing how the cube reveals 777 or 7 in its oppositions. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, this other side too, when you add the 396 like this, using the 12, it reveals 27. So you got 144 and 27, which reveals 171. In the structures that use 18, because remember the single digit code actually has 2 phases, 1 through 18, because every number really has its polar opposite. So when you add the numbers 1 through 18, it reveals 171. So again, we're seeing links all over the place with everything else. And also too, the idea of the first series of numbers being the ones that are unique to the order, and the other side not changing, because the 3672 and the 108 never change. That's the same thing as the true tree of life and the jewel, where the masculine pillar never changes. The masculine pillar is 247 on both structures, and it never changes. And we're seeing that here, the correlation too. All this stuff is correlated and links together. So thank you, and namaste.